The 1985 through to 1994 period is arguably one of the most exciting in motorcyclists when development really accelerated. There were lots of outstanding bikes that we could have chosen as our most defining bike of the era, and perhaps others would have done. But in the end, there was only one choice, the Ducati 916. It's not only technically strong, aesthetically beautiful, that influence really permeated British motorcycling and really changed how we felt about sports bikes. And to this day, it's still one of those bikes that really makes people stop and stare. And you only have to look at MCN's staff body as a small segment of motorcycling just to understand how influential it was. The former editor Rich Newland owned a 996. This particular bike belongs to regular road tester John Urry. It's a 1995 916 SP. And even our office manager Alison, her and her husband own a 998S. And then there's me. I was 7 years old in 1994, really impressionable age, and I could have gone maybe down the football route, got obsessed with cars, but thanks to this and to Carl Fogarty, I got obsessed with motorbikes. I just remember the first time I saw a 916 actually. Sat in the back of the family hatchback, hot summer's day, windows down because there was no air conditioning in our car those days. And this guy just came steaming through the traffic and really wound it on, fed it the onions through a few gears. And I can still remember that big V-twin boom. Even now, I can still see that unknown rider disappearing off into the distance as we were off to Cornwall or something. And that's kind of led me down this path where I've had this 20-year career in MCN. I definitely wouldn't have signed up in 2005 and become the journalist that I am today. So for me, it's been a real game changer and such an influence on my life. Plenty has been said about the 916, so as much as I could go on for hours about everything that's special about it, I won't. But I will share some of the best bits and most important facts. Underneath is something of an evolution of the 851 and the 888 that came before. A 90-degree V-twin with 8 desmodromically operated valves, cam belts and a dry clutch to clatter A in neutral. It made 114 horsepower in the first iteration, had a steel frame just like the 888 it replaced, but this time it was designed with increased simplicity, less weight and less bulk in mind. It's a really snug fit around the rear cylinder, and the whole bike has a stubby, aggressive geometry for the day, especially when you consider there's a cylinder jutting out horizontally. The rear end of the frame and crankcases also changed for increased strength over the 888, which used to fracture them in racing, as well as accommodating the new single-sided swing arm. Chosen for aesthetics, if we're honest, the notion of quick wheel changes in endurance racing can't have been a serious consideration for a company like Ducati, and it's very, very similar to the Pro Arm that Honda fitted to the 1987 RC30. And interestingly, there's another Honda influence in the styling department, but probably not the one that everyone expects. Yes, the NR750 had underseat exhaust before the Ducati. Take a moment to Google the Bimota SB2 prototype from the 1970s, which had 2 silencers poking out of the seat. The production bike didn't get them, but that early effort was the work of Massimo Tamburini, that same incredible talent who crafted the 916. And craft it he did. An obsession with 50-50 weight distribution with a rider on it informed everything from the frame design to the tank shape, ensuring you sit exactly where he wanted you to. He made a point to test the position with riders of all sizes too, to make sure that they could get tucked in properly. The Honda influence, according to Ducati's production engineer at the time, Andrea Forni, came from the RC30. And look at how the seat is sculpted across the top, where it drops away to the sides, and even the shape of the taillights. It's not identical, but it's clearly informed by the Honda, which Tamburini is said to have proclaimed Japan's best styling work of the time. Even some of the contours and venting the fairing isn't dissimilar to the Honda's stunning shape. And one of my favourite stories about the design is how there's no wind tunnel work here. Beyond the ergonomic and aesthetic considerations, the airflow was partially determined by riding matte black prototypes on rain-soaked Italian autostradas, then allowing the bike to dry out and studying the dirty trails that it made as the wet road filth was blown across it. Incredible. My final bit of insight on the 916 is that it's actually really easy to work on, and that was always part of the design brief. And that's not because they're unreliable and they break down all the time, which is sometimes true, but it was actually with racing in mind, where being able to make changes, repair things really quickly and really easy is a benefit. And I'm going to demonstrate that with my very own 996. Yep, I fulfilled my 7-year-old ambition to own a 916 series bike a few years ago. I absolutely love it. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to work on with just one 6mm hex key and the ignition key. So I'm going to start a timer. I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to get to the bodywork off and get to all the major servicing parts. So let's go. So first the seat. We've got one electrical connector for the taillights. and this really natty little grommet and pin setup which holds the seat on. And just like that, it's off. So left fairing comes next, because that's the way they sandwich together. And we've just got quick release fasteners all round. One side. This side just the same, more quick release fasteners. Take those off. And then the last fastener, and that's out. So fuel tank next. Hex key. One bolt at the back, and then it's just on a pin at the front, so it pulls away and lift. I'm going to allow myself another 10-15 seconds for the quick release fuel connectors, which I can't be bothered to do because this is very full and very heavy. But that's how easy it is to access spark plugs, filters, everything you need to service. And that carries all the way to the bike's design. So while all this in here might look a little bit chaotic, it's actually really easy to take apart. All these electrical components, the battery tray, they'll come away really quickly. And then the cam belt covers are really easy to pull out. I'd like to take a moment just to thank the sponsor of today's video, Motor, for helping make all this possible. Their 300V fully synthetic line of oil is long been something of a go-to for people with high performance bikes, racing, track day, or just bikes like my Ducati, including me. This bottle here, I paid my own money for actually, is what I put into my Ducati this winter, and so far it's doing really well, not using any oil. Bowl on. So thank you again, Motor, and can I have a free bottle next time? Thanks.
So here we are on the road enjoying a pair of 916 series bikes. So just in front of me there is a regular MCN road tester John Urry on his 916 SP 95, I think off the top of my head. My bike is a 2009 96 Baposto with some dress up parts and other bits and pieces. And I was thinking about it earlier, this is a really cool moment for me because although I've ridden it a lot and I've ridden it on track and various other bits, I've never ridden it with another bike from kind of the lineup. So to ride this pair with kind of surround sound booming V-twin is pretty cool. And I've really been enjoying what we've been doing kind of off camera so far. So we're going to bring you into the fold and let you enjoy this kind of symphony of Ducatis as well. This is it's so lovely. And I was talking to John about the bike as well, and we're kind of both in the same boat, even though there's slightly different models and I've played mine a bit more and kind of modified and improved certain bits. They're just such an event. They are a really special experience. Just because, well, I don't know why, just because. I think in a lot of ways, that kind of whole thing where Italians tell you their bikes are built with their passion and all this sort of stuff. It's genuinely true, especially in the case of the 916. That whole bit I was talking about earlier where Tamburini went to all those kind of hours of painstakingly feathering things, trial and error. I think you can really feel that love in the bike, as well as the sort of core, sort of brilliant engineering that went into geometry and the engine and things like that as well. John lives about, I don't know, 15-20 miles away from our office, something like that. If he's coming in to test some bikes, he'll ride that in, leave that behind and go out for a few days on whatever he's testing. And the same for me, I also do the sort of 7 or 8 mile commute into the office. And yeah, okay, it's not the most exciting road, but just being on these things is often enough. It's so immersive, so soulful. Every time you kind of, I'm going to just let John get away and just that kind of, that big bellow from under the tank and kind of get a bit of a sort of thudding V-twin sort of vibe through it, and it just kind of lunges forward on that torque. The quicker you go, they just settle into this beautiful high-speed rhythm. And I think in some ways, if they'd been a little bit less brittle and they'd been a bit better sporty in road racing, these things perhaps would have made great TT bikes. And they've had kind of sporadic successes here and there. I mean, I guess recently we've had Michael Dunlop on a Panigale V-twin. But there's kind of this impression that 916s don't steer that quickly, but they do. I mean, look at that, it's just nice and agile. The short wheelbase, aggressive head angle. Okay, I'll be honest, they are not the perfect road bike by any means. I'm constantly hawk-eye watching for potholes here, because if you do hit one, you get an absolute smack in the wrist and you get another from the back end. I probably could have had it softened off when I had some suspension work done, but I don't think it's this sort of bike. It'd just be wallowing horrible, and to be honest, you put even more strain on your wrist. So you just live with it. You go places where it feels alright, except that it is really a race on road. They built it to sort of continue their sort of early successes in world superbikes, and obviously that paid off, because they signed Foggy, he immediately got on a pace, and then over the years they had loads of other riders that, even if they weren't winning championships, as Troy Corser did in 1996, you had Frankie Keeley at various points, Hodgson, James Tozen as well towards the end of the bike's life on the sort of satellite GSE bikes, all manner of great riders who were kind of fighting podiums, getting wins, things like that. I mean, lifespan as well, it has to be talked about. Obviously we had 916, then 996 like mine. There was the lesser spotted 955 in between. That was a really curious homologation model for months, I believe, not even a year. And then through to the 998, which ran all the way until 2002, when it was replaced by the 999. I mean, what's that? That's 8 years with, you know, okay, some reasonable changes, but the core design really remained. And so going back to the noise with these things as well, you get it all, because obviously with a V-twin, the intakes face directly up underneath the tank down here. Well, it's not really an airbox, that the tank just seals the top of a tray. And particularly on mine, because it's carbon fibre, I think that kind of intake resonance really sort of reverberates around, and it's really awful. So if I go back a year or two, listen to that just sounds great. And then of course you've got those iconic twin termies sort of poking out just sort of a foot or so behind your head there from under the tailpiece, so you just always treated to this kind of brilliant noise. And over the years I've ridden SP1s, I owned a TL1000S, I've ridden 1198s, 1098s, all of the Panigales, and for me still I think these make the best noise. The 999 doesn't sound anywhere near as good, and I think that's because it's got that big single silencer. I think there's something just very particular about the way the exhaust is routed on this, the silencer configuration, and I guess as well the way the engine kind of breathes through them, and it just makes such a soulful, bassy kind of noise. I love the old girl, I do. I mean, I've owned this since late 2018, so where are we now? Middle of 2025, and I'm really not thinking of getting rid of it anytime soon. In fact, I'm thinking I've really not ridden it enough. It does 1,000 miles a year most of the time. There was a couple of years where it didn't do anything, obviously 2020 and COVID, never really got it out. I really want to get my finger out and do some miles in Europe, because despite what I've perhaps said about the riding position being really uncompromising, I mean, I've fitted these handlebars that they're offset, instead of being there, they're back here, and they're a bit less aggressive. It's a bit easier to ride. Once you get up to speed, and as long as you keep doing that and you're not messing around in town, it's kind of okay for somebody my height. And again, going back to Tamburini, designing it for riders of all heights, you can kind of feel that, because my friend Mark's got a 998 and he's kind of a good sort of 5 inches shorter than me. He's like, does that really fit you? He said, it's quite a small bike, and I've always thought the opposite. I mean, I've got good room down to my legs. I mean, the distance to the handlebars is actually quite short, so although they are low, it's not a real stretch. I mean, like I said, I had a TL1000S, and there you feel much more strung out, like you're out here. A bit of an exaggeration there, but that's kind of how it feels in comparison to this. This is a lot more squat. I just need to get there and enjoy it, because they are such an amazing thing, even still. And in fact, actually, in our line of work where we're riding brand new bikes, obviously these days they've got incredible electronics which have their place, and I wouldn't ride a lot of new bikes without them, really. I mean, a Panigale V4 without electronics doesn't really bear thinking of, so all credit to those who've kind of raced them in BSB, especially with kind of a factory motor in. But obviously this is just so raw, and it's more raw than most 90 sports bikes. I mean, an old GSXR 750 or a YSF 750, they'll feel a little bit kind of softer because they are, whereas this is rigid and taut, and even with the power commander sorting out the fueling on this one, it's pretty instantaneous response. It's just an experience you just don't get with anything made for probably about sort of 20 years now, really, since kind of fly-by-wire came in and things started getting dumbed down in that regard. So yeah, I appreciate this kind of more and more with every year that passes, and in the context of new stuff. And one last little thing I did want to mention about my bike in particular as well, because that basic frame and engine is good. If you instill a little bit of modern suspension knowledge, sort the brakes out and get the fueling done, and do little bits and pieces to make it suit you, like I've done with my handlebars, it really makes them come alive. I've also down-geared this one significantly because factory gearing is outrageously high and it could never pull it in a month of Sundays. So that's the other thing, there's so much potential there that you can unlock with that, where are we now, 31 years of knowledge in this series, and even the reliability side of things as well. People know what goes wrong with them, there's usually a fix for it, so they're probably as good to own as they ever have been.
The 916 and its derivatives are still really special machines, not just to look at. They're great to ride and they're great to own as well. Okay, they're not reliable, practical, everyday transport in the sense that some bikes are, but even in that regard, they're not as bad as they once were, because the knowledge is out there to keep these bikes on the road and probably in better fettle than they were when they were new. I use mine to get to the office sometimes and it's absolutely fine. And actually, our office manager Alison, I mentioned earlier, their 998, when they first got it new, she didn't have a licence at the time. They rode theirs from the UK to Misano for World Ducati Week, 2 up with luggage, and they absolutely loved it. It's one of their treasured memories, and that's what a 916 or any of its kind of family really give you. They are treasured memories, and okay, the occasional breakdown, but we'll gloss over that. And that's what it does as well. My bike's given me grief a few times, but I kind of forgive and forget. And even John's bike yesterday, as he was preparing it for the shoot, the clutch slave cylinder packed up and we've had to go and find one from a friend and get it back together. But you kind of just shrug your shoulders and you get on with it. You go, well, that's what it is. It's an old Italian motorbike. They are going to be a pain sometimes. But you get on it and you forget all about it. And me and John have had a blast swapping back and forth these bikes and just listening to that kind of booming V-twin. It's just such a wonderful thing. And for us, that's why this bike kind of trumps bikes like the early G6 R750, the Fireblade, F-Star 1000X subs and a few others as well. Because when I ride them, they still don't stir my soul in the same way these do. And I can't see myself getting rid of it in any near future. So that is why the 916 and the 916 sneaks in as well is our bike of the era. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, drop us a like. If you want to see what we do next time, subscribe too. Thank you very much for watching.